Hello everyone and good afternoon and welcome to the Friday review of apps. My name's Reto Meyer and I'm joined today at the desk by Fred Chung. We're both developer advocates on the Android team, and today we're going to take a look at a few games which have been nominated by their developers, try and provide a little bit of feedback, a little bit of advice as to how we think they can be even more awesome than they may already be. To remind everyone...
Hello everyone.
To remind everyone, it's entirely a self-nominated process. There's a moderator page which you can put your apps in, which the link has been shared on the post announcing this particular Hangout. So we do encourage everyone to put your apps in there so we can take a look. The idea here is that we can use this as a way to find some really cool apps which perhaps haven't come to our attention or we haven't given adequate time to look at. And the ones which we think are really, really good, we're going to walk across the hall and suggest it to the editorial team who does the staff picks and see if maybe they can get interested. So the idea is we tell you what you should be doing better, and hopefully if you're able to implement some of those things, we might even be able to see your apps featured.
It's not a guarantee, but we're trying to work with you to sort of maximize his chance of getting featured.
Exactly.
Which is good, which is a good thing.
So for those of you whose apps aren't being looked at in a particular week, keep in mind that most of this advice is pretty generic. It's stuff which is going to block anyone from being featured potentially. So we want to try and make sure that we get that information out there. So today we're going to take a look at 4 apps. I'm using my old school method of taking notes. And so we're going to look at Paper Airplanes, hence the paper. We're going to look at WootCheck. We're going to look at Reddit Sync and Colorblind Vision. So those are the 4 apps. If you are the developer of one of those apps, then please join us on the Hangout. Let us know in the comment stream, and our erstwhile producer Ian will hopefully be able to invite you in. You get to see Ian a little bit later for the games Friday review. So let's start with Paper Airplanes. So I'm going to...
You want to go first?
I'm going to press this button,
right,
which will eventually switch us to a tablet view. Excellent. Do you want to open it up?
Yeah, sure. So Paper Airplanes got 2 versions on Google Play. The free version, which is ad supported, and that's the one that we're looking at. And also there's a sort of a premium version. I forgot what the price is, but so there are 2 versions available. So, whoops, let me just dismiss it and go back and, whoops, launched the wrong app. Sorry. Okay, here we go.
Okay, so we notice straight away that it's forced into portrait mode. Which is interesting, particularly for a tablet. It's not necessarily the best experience. You've got all that screen real estate. Why not let people do it in landscape mode as well?
Right, and the other thing is that, oops, I just lost that screen that I wanted to comment on, but there's a checkbox that shows don't show this app later.
Yes.
And
if you switch to the phone view, we can show it up there. So
yeah, there's this checkbox which is blue on blue. The checkbox towards the bottom of the screen, blue on blue, is not that legible given the chosen background for a particular application.
Yeah, it's particularly dark blue.
yeah, the background and sort of the hollow blue. I hope you can see it. Yeah, so it's not that legible.
Yeah, you see how you can barely see that? Yeah, it's not much better in person.
Right.
So you want to be careful with your color schemes. This app is very much themed around sort of a sky blue, which totally makes sense for an airplane
app.
But the combination of the holo theme here doesn't work 100%, particularly because it's kind of a mismatch of styles. On the one hand, you've got this custom continue button along the bottom here, so that's a totally custom button, and above it a standard holo checkbox. So generally, I would say stick to the holo buttons for your apps in general. But in this app, it's kind of got a game feel to it, and so it almost makes sense to have sort of more customized controls.
Right.
But in that case, go the whole hog. Make the checkboxes a little more fun. Make the checkboxes look so that they're consistent with the rest of your controls.
Right. So at least to make it stand out from the blue background, which is nice. Yeah. All right. So should we go back to
the
tablet?
tablet.
All right. Thanks, Ian. So there are initially we have this dashboard view, which is all good, and it shows you 4 options that are available to users. And so for the first one, let's have a look at it. And then once I go in it, it turns back to landscape.
So it's not even fully.
As I'm
portrait
using it, I
force.
have to keep rotating my tablet.
Okay, so that's one thing I
which
would
takes
point
some
out.
efforts.
If you do decide that some of your app needs to be in portrait, then it should all have to be in portrait. We generally don't recommend forcing it to be in any one orientation because it can get silly on different devices. But if for whatever reason that's an absolute deal breaker, then don't do this. Don't make it so that you have to keep turning it around to make it work.
Yeah, there are no users.
I also want to interrupt real quickly, Fred,
yeah,
because
go ahead.
one of my hot button points is available for view. So if you switch back to the phone view real quick, hopefully you can all see that the my notification, my status bar, everything is gone. It's gone full screen, and I don't know why. I don't know why I am not allowed to see my incoming emails and text messages, or what the time is, or my internet connectivity. I want those things, Fred, and this app has taken them away. So, big tip here: don't make your app go full screen unless there's a really good reason for it. And there are some great reasons. If you're watching video, reading a book. Some really immersive games work really well in that kind of a mode, but for paper airplane folding, probably doesn't fit into that category. I guess maybe you could argue it was educational, but I don't think it's. I think it's.
Yeah, I would agree with your assessment. So this problem that Redo just pointed out is more prominent on phones, but on tablets. Fortunately, with the wider screen, the content is still available on the lower right-hand corner. But if you're targeting phones, which looks like you're trying to target as well, take Redo's advice in mind. All right, so let's go back to the tablet view. So we have a Fry's banner ad down there, which is good. Somebody has to pay for this free app as well.
It's a little bit small though, I would think. It looks like it's kind of optimized for the phone device rather than the tablet.
Right, it looks like it. Yeah, so you might want to think about leveraging the other ad formats that may or may not be available on the ad network that you're working with.
Yeah. You need to definitely think about your ads as a part of the UI. It should be placed in a way that is clever and sort of fits in. Like certainly having no ads is happier for a lot of users, but given that this is an app which I think you can pay to get rid of those ads, that's fair enough to include them. But do think about how they're being included. They should be part of that layout. They shouldn't, because here on the tablet it looks a little like it's just being plonked a little box on the bottom.
Right.
So
definitely.
Think creatively about how you can put the ad in a way that doesn't detract from the user experience.
Right. The animated background is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So on the upper right-hand corner of this tablet view, there's this information icon. I don't know if the viewers can see it here over YouTube, but the upper right-hand corner, there's this icon. If you press it, it pops up this information dialog box that shows you the various available options. Again, the holo theme associated with the checkbox is something that you should probably reconsider. Let's see. Let's go back. Let's go into one of the options here. Again, another dialog box pops up indicating the various difficulty levels.
So one of the things I quite like about this flow as Fred's going through it is that it does kind of explain what's happening each step of the way. So it's using things like these colors to indicate the difficulty of the different planes. And it's not immediately obvious what that means. And so each time you encounter something new, it pops up a dialogue explaining exactly what that is and how it should work. The one thing I would say is that as part of that dialogue, let's see, I think if I click through to one of them, we should get one. So as part of it, you do get this do not show next time, and that's unclicked by default. I would probably switch that around and say by default, once you've seen it once, that's probably enough, and you can sort of uncheck it if you think you may want to come back and do it better next time.
Yeah. So we're looking at this style called Nakamura Lock.
Nakamura Lock. Nice.
Yeah, awesome. Good name. I don't know where you source this information from, but it's pretty good stuff. So you can do a number of things like rating, I guess, rating the design. Okay.
Yeah. So you need to fly it first, and then you can say how good it flew.
Yeah. So again, on this rating site, I guarantee you, like a big percentage of the audience out there can't really read the text clearly.
I'm sitting next to you and I can't read the
Yeah,
text
so
clearly.
like our suggestions related to checkbox, think about the contrast level for the various colors that you have chosen within your application. That would be awesome. And on this particular view, it's basically a stretched view of what seems to be designed for a phone form factor.
Yeah,
so
in fact,
maybe
if
that's
you have a look at the phone. That's exactly it, and it's still got the same contrast issues, but you can see how it fits. So yeah, think about it when you're switching to tablet. Think about how you need to redesign your layout to make it make more sense.
That's good. All right, let's go back and check out more features. Let's have a look at folding instructions to see how one goes about creating this airplane. So let's dismiss it. And so what we're looking at is first step, and then here we have a slider bar down here indicating the various steps involved. So what I've noticed is that, okay, it's from a design standpoint, it's pretty good, right? But it's right above the ad, right? So which makes me wonder, okay, if I wanted to tab on step number 6, okay, it may cause some inadvertent clicks on the ads, which may not be a good user experience.
That's a good point. Yeah, you want to make sure that your ads, that when people click your ads, it's being done intentionally. So you want to try and keep the actionable items as far away from the ads as possible.
Right. Yeah, and I think some ad networks have taken steps to prevent inadvertent clicks by, in the case of, I think, AdMob or Google AdSense, they require 2 clicks in order to launch the app. I guess that's one of the things that they're trying to prevent. But from an app layout design standpoint, think about the relative positions of your display ads and the various touchable controls within your application to sort of minimize that impact.
Very nice. So I'm having a look at it here as well. So we can see that the layouts on the tablet and the phone are basically the same, and I think they both look pretty good. It expands on the tablet there. And you can see here it acts quite nicely as I'm swiping along. It changes to the next thing, and there's this sort of cute little animation showing you what is going on there, which is quite nice. One thing that I noticed when trying to follow some of the instructions here is that having each step-by-step thing works really well, but what might be an interesting thing that you could add on is have a YouTube video of someone actually doing the folding, and then either embed that within the app or even just have a link to it. So you can say, show me someone actually doing this, because I don't quite understand what this little circle with a line and arrow across it actually means. And so often having sort of a better visual representation can really help people understand exactly what that means.
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess along the line of step-by-step instructions in the tablet view, and I guess the same control is also available on the phone view, that on the upper left-hand corner of each step, you have this bubble and then when you tap on it, it pops up. Okay, we're in focus. It pops up the specific instruction for that particular step, which is very useful information. But I think if you are talking about tablet layout, right? You have this wide, blank space here. So think about, displaying the information here in a tablet form factor, but you may want to, take the current approach on the phone form factor just because of the limited real estate.
Yeah, I'd actually probably go a step further and say that even on the phone, it's kind of hidden. Like, it's not obvious to me that this little icon up here has the critical information you need to understand what you're supposed to be doing. So I'd be tempted to have this as maybe a toast that gets displayed, or even just maybe it shows up like this first and then fades away, so that or if you click it to make it go, or some sort of a way to make this information more visible. Because right now it feels a little hidden, because I didn't even know it was there.
Definitely.
It could even just be a single tap. If you tap it, it gives you the instructions, something like that.
Right. Do we want to go back to the... Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. Again, we're in the gliders section.
Nice.
Good. Let's try to buy some stuff. It looks like there are 4 purchasable items with a lock icon indicating that they're not currently available. So let's tap on one of them. And, okay, so it shows me the finished product. It looks good. Let's try to... How do I buy it? It's not apparent.
Have you already bought it?
Right. I'm pretty sure I haven't. Okay, there you go.
Okay.
So by clicking on voting instructions, it pops up this dialog box saying it is available on Android Market, which no longer exists. So please take a couple minutes to fix your strings to reflect its current name, Google Play.
Google Play.
Google Play.
Absolutely.
Say it 10 times. Google Play. So let's go ahead and purchase it. Okay, it launches you into the Google Play client, the full version of your application. Now, what I've noticed is that there's an opportunity here for better integration. So for those of you that have been following, we have launched in-app purchase some number of months ago. So that's something that gives the end users a very immersive, purchase flow, so that they don't have to be taken out of context within the application, and then they can still make purchase for the premium content, whatever it is offered by your application.
Yeah, the in-app billing flow is, in this circumstance, it actually offers you two opportunities from a developer perspective. One is definitely what Fred said, which means that they don't have to leave the context of your app in order to complete that purchase. You'll find that every extra button that a user has to click in order to get whatever it is they want makes them that much less likely to follow through. So here they're having to click. That takes them to the market where they then have to initiate the purchase flow. And even once that's all finished, they then have to exit the app which they were using and then open the paid version. So it's this really long set of steps to get from want something to the gratification of actually having it. And so having that in-app billing flow removes 90% of that. It's just press it, confirm it as you would in Google Play, and then you're back and you're able to continue from exactly where you were. The other opportunity from a developer perspective is rather than having a one-off price, this $2.50 for the full version, you can charge people for each new set of planes, or each new plane potentially, and have a much lower price for sort of a single upgrade, but then cumulatively charge more than a total of $2.50 for the entire experience. So that means that you've got a much more opportunity to then let people get in and say, oh, it's only another 50 cents to get a whole new plane, and you can do that 5 or 6 times, and they can see what they're getting without feeling like they're spending more than they're willing. $2.50 for, I only want this one other plane thing. So yeah, there's an opportunity there.
Right.
I think we're 15 minutes in. I didn't know because the time is hidden on my phone. Bad.
There you go.
So I just want to sum up really briefly and say that overall I think it's a really nice looking app.
Yep.
It does what it says. It helps you make paper airplanes. If that is your thing, I can highly recommend that you check this app out. It's got a bunch of designs. I've tried out a couple of the planes and they work pretty well. I should have brought them into demo, but my origami is not what it should be, so I'll save myself the humiliation.
Sitting on your desk?
Yeah. No, I threw them and they just went too far. I just couldn't get them back. Overall, I think you want to have a look at the design a little bit. There's some contrast issues. We're going full screen when we shouldn't. The menu button is actually visible, the buttons of shame, as we like to say. So set the target SDK to 15, so that doesn't come up. And in fact, the menu button doesn't do anything. So that is the only.
Just hide it. If it doesn't do anything, it's a distraction on the screen.
So given that it does nothing, it's really easy for you. You just need to update your target SDK, and it'll go away, and I'll be a much happier person.
Sounds good.
All right, let's move on to the next.
Some planes
over the weekend. We're going to have a look at WootCheck, maybe. Let's have a look at WootCheck.
Okay. Why don't you try it?
I will fire that up. So we got it on the phone here. I got to stop hitting the desk. It's making everything vibrate. Okay, so WootCheck is a little app which monitors Woot.com and shows you all of the cool stuff which is on sale, how much it costs, how many items are remaining, all that stuff. So if you're in the market to buy cool stuff from Woot, this is an app that helps you keep track of that. Overall visual design is really nice. As you can see, we've got like a nice swipeable view pager here with the headings updating while we're doing that, and it even changes colors. Oops, should stop moving it. Changes colors of things. As we go through.
Time.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really nice. We've got the button styles are all hollow themed, which is nice. We've got an action bar, which makes me happy. No menu buttons of shame. If we go through, we've got the share, and that pops up the traditional share functionality, which is fantastic. Same with preferences. And if we go into the preferences, you can see that there's actually a bunch of stuff that developers can, that users, I should say, can do here to customize their experience. So they can decide whether or not they want notifications for when new products arrive. I probably don't. So for me, I would use this app just to check whenever I was interested in Woot. But other people are going to want to see, like, every time something new comes out, they want to be the first to know. So you can update your refresh intervals. You can do all of that sort of stuff. And importantly, all of this is done using our existing preferences framework. So it's all familiar. It all looks the way it should do, which is nice.
Cool.
What else? When we go back in, we can also see that landscape mode works quite nicely. In that it works in landscape mode because we're using an action bar. You can see that the refresh and the share and the settings button all update. One comment I had looking at it in landscape mode on the phone is that all the details are gone now. So you just have the picture of whatever it is for sale. Now, I'm not quite sure if that's a feature or a bug. It can kind of go either way for me. It's kind of nice to have that, just the image just there, and then you scroll to get more information. But I worry a little bit that perhaps, in particular, the key call to action, the I want one button, is right at the bottom. It's like scrolls away.
Below the phone, yeah.
So I would be tempted, and even in portrait version, to switch that around. You want to have the primary action should be something that users can get to really, really easily, because ultimately that's what you want to do, is you want to send them to Woot to buy stuff. That's where the value of your app is at. Okay, I got some. Oh, the other comment I wanted to make as well, real quick. And I'm just going to keep going backwards between myself talking and the phone every time Ian switches them, is this details button. So there's a details button on the phone. We'll press that again. It's up here. And that shows you actual details about the item for sale, which is kind of important information if you plan to maybe buy it. That wasn't obvious to me that that's what this icon did.
Yeah, I was going to have the same comment.
Yeah.
It wasn't apparent.
So,
first use.
So again, what I would do is perhaps try and make that a little bit more prominent. Perhaps even have the I want one and the details button both as text at potentially even at the top of the screen or somewhere that's always going to be visible, whether you're in portrait or landscape.
Do you mind going back to the detail page again?
Course, yeah.
So you see on this page, you see two back buttons. Initially.
You do.
Right? The system back button, right, which exists on all Android devices. And also this developer has chosen to implement their own back button, which also serves the same.
Back button as an action bar button.
Let's double it.
Don't think
double
I've
down.
seen that before.
Yeah, so try to avoid that.
Yeah, in fact, I'd go one step further and don't just try and avoid it, but just avoid it entirely.
Avoid it, according to Reto.
It's a great example here of where an up button would be a better solution. So where you've got the application icon over here, you can set that up so that it has a chevron to the left of it, which indicates go back up a level.
Right.
Which in this circumstance would make sense because you want to go back to home. And in fact does that. It just doesn't look like it does that. So that's what I would do is replace that explicit back button and do it that way.
Yep.
And in fact, while we're talking about that particular button, you'll see here if I go back, scroll my way through and then hit that from somewhere else, it brings me back to the first page of the view pager. That's not really the way that should work. So anything which is over on the top left, including the app button and any sort of navigation that you have there, is supposed to be navigation effectively through the activity stack. So navigating, like moving things here within this activity, this visual interface, isn't something that you would expect the back button to change. And so a good kind of tip is that if hitting the back button doesn't do anything or exits the app, then hitting the home icon shouldn't do anything either. And in fact, you should probably disable it on the home screen here so that clicking it doesn't look like it does anything.
Right.
Should we have a look at the tablet version?
Absolutely. All right, so the tablet version's got a similar look and feel, different color-coded,
that's nice.
based on the type of products that is on sale, and then they have incorporated a good use of fragments. Right, one on the left, just like what we just saw on the phone version, and then on the same screen on the right pane that you can directly have a look at, okay, the detail information of the product.
That's nice. That's probably a pretty good clue here, because you've taken up vaguely 2/3 of the page with the description information, which kind of suggests to me that you think it's important.
Right.
And so, yeah, what I would say is definitely try and make that more prominent on the phone version if it is useful information.
Right. And also, at first glance, I found that, I don't have my glasses, but the font size
that is
are
a small font.
Are quite small.
Yeah.
But as I dug deeper into the application, actually within the preference menu, there are some pretty thoughtful menu items. Like you can do things such as increasing your screen size, I believe. Maybe not in this app, but in another app. But you can think about incorporating font size features in the preference, so that for users like me, right, I can really read the small fonts.
Yeah, I think you'll find that in this particular instance, they've used a custom font that's smaller. I'm guessing for the description, that's probably just a web view with the HTML rendering already in there. So, but that doesn't mean you can't change it within your own code. But even still, even if you're just looking at the description text, which you have controls like the condition, price, and stuff remaining, it is really small text. It looks like it's probably 8 and 10 respectively.
Right.
And that's too small to read. You want to be looking at something more like 12, 14, even 16 for big important things. So yeah, be really cautious about reducing the font size below the system defaults, because yeah, they're hard to read.
Right.
With or without glasses.
Absolutely, I need to have my eyes checked. So have a look at I want one button. What happens is that, as I recall, okay, it points you to the browser. Let's go back, and I think another comment is that in terms of theming the app, it looks like you have this app is very colorful, and I assume that these different colors correspond to the different colors that are used on Wood.com. Mm-hmm. I assume that's the case, and on the action bar, right, you've chosen to use the dark hollow theme, and just so you know, you can theme the color of the action bar as well to something that might fit a little bit nicer. Maybe it's by design that you have chosen to use black color, but just so you know, people can theme their action bar color as well.
It might be interesting. Maybe a bit too much color if you made it the same as the rest of the pages. But on the other hand, it'd be worth looking at. I'd be interested to know what your thinking was, if that's a conscious choice to go with the dark theme there. The other thing I wanted to point out as well, you can see it on the TV version. On the smartphone version, is if you click the image, then it takes you through a bunch of other images.
Cool.
Which is handy, but I discovered it entirely by accident. So again, this is something which you probably want to give the user some kind of clue that there is a way to see more images. Now, obviously, usually I would say that you should do a swipe, but then you've already got swiping to change pages. So what I would probably do is leave it as a click, but add some kind of on-screen indicator, like a sort of a transparent chevrons on either side to indicate, if I click here, it'll take me to the next image.
Right, and it's also probably good practice to have the option of saying just show once, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or even something like little dots along the bottom, so that you can see that you've got 4 images to choose from. Or potentially even have little thumbnails along the bottom, so you can see tiny images just to get an idea. I think Amazon does something similar on their website, but just a way to show people that you have that data. The other thing I noticed as I was scrolling through, particularly when I was changing images, is that that actually doesn't seem so bad now, but it seemed as though there was loading happening each time I was sort of scrolling through. So for images like this, you want to cache them really aggressively. Make sure that you're not downloading images every time. Even if you're having to remove them from memory, you want them to be on disk cached somewhere, so that you're minimizing the amount of network traffic that you have to do.
And speaking of caching images, so Android training is one of the things that we've been beefing up lately. And just this week or last week, one of our team members, Adam, has launched a lesson that talks about manipulating bitmaps.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you do have an app which is using a lot of images, a lot of bitmaps, memory, using memory can be a big issue there. And so yeah, Adam's got a great class that tells you exactly how you can do that without force closing your app.
Check that out.
Okay, I think that's pretty much all the notes I
Yeah.
have. So yeah,
Same.
nice looking app. Really like the fact that it's holo themed, that it's using the action bar. It's got all those sorts of things sort of in place. So yeah, a few tips there on some usability things to improve generally. But otherwise, nice app. Okay, let's have a look. We've got 15 minutes to go. We should be able to look
it's
at
only
I think,
1:33.
two more apps. Yeah, we want to finish at 1:45
Okay.
to
right.
give the games guys time to set up, because
Sounds good.
they have a lot of setup to do. There's,
Oh, yeah.
there's drinks
Oh,
to
yeah.
arrange. There's glasses
Beverages.
to fill. It's a complicated process. Let's check out Reddit Sync.
Yeah.
Let's see. We can start on the phone again. I think. Open that up. Boom. So one of the comments I'd make right off the bat is as we're loading, we get the updating progress bar. Now that kind of makes sense because you want to make sure you've got fresh data, but I'd be kind of tempted almost to do that in the background. So load up the app, use the data which was there last time I used it, and while that loading is happening, do an asynchronous network lookup to update it so that I don't have to do any waiting, even though it's still going to take the same amount of time before I actually see the content I want. It doesn't seem that way because I see something straight away and then it updates. Generally, the app looks nice. Again, it's using the holo themes. You don't have any menu buttons of shame. Action bar is there. You got a view pager to let you go between the subreddits, which is nice. We have the subreddit editor here, so we can drag the position.
Oh, you can arrange.
Yeah, you can drag.
That's handy.
Exactly. Well, maybe if I do it with my right hand. I am right-handed, left-handed. Can't even remember what handed I am. So this is quite nice. Using a lot of the modern updated functionality that we have in Ice Cream Sandwich and in the support library to create a pretty nice experience. Again, as we were saying beforehand with the updating, it's the same here. Every time I switch to a new subreddit, it's clearly pulling down all that information, which is fair enough. But I'd almost be tempted to be a little more aggressive in your pre-caching. So once the app is open, again, there's an Android training class on this. I'm talking about how to make your network traffic more efficient. And it turns out that the biggest cost is how frequently you are downloading content, not how much content you're downloading. There's obviously a balance there. You don't want to download like 50 megs every time. But if you're going to, for something like this where there's a good chance that the user is going to flick across all of these pages, you're better off downloading at least the text for all of those in one big shot rather than... Because at the moment, every time I do this, it's hitting the network. It fires up the wireless radio, and that's going to stay active for something like 20 seconds.
Wow, that's good to know.
So as I'm flicking through here, if I do this every 18 seconds, flick across, and it does a new update, then the radio is going to stay on permanently, and it's going to drain my battery. So you're kind of better off just doing it once at the beginning. Otherwise, looks nice. You click through. I really like the layout here. It actually kind of reminds me of the way Currents looks, but you kind of got the hero graphic at the top, the image credit. You've got the description from Reddit and sort of a pretty nice implementation of threading for a mobile platform. You can see the indentations there. It makes it pretty clear. So yeah, I quite like the look of it. I would say that actually this is quite good. So showing the top 15 comments. And it's a one-click to show all. So this is quite a clever idea of the compromise I was talking about. You probably don't want to be downloading all the comments if there's potentially hundreds or even thousands for a particular popular post. And you don't want to do sort of the infinite scroll where it loads once you get to the bottom is also really costly because every time it loads the next 15, it's hitting the network. So I like this as a compromise. 15 is probably the most, for most apps or for most articles, you're just going to want to look at a few comments, but if you want to see them all, you can. So I quite like it. The one comment I did have about the UI is if you have a look up here, you've got a little send button. Or at least it's a send button as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it looks like this particular app is quite heavily inspired from the G+ app.
Exactly, G+ and Gmail, which is awesome, except that button means send, and there's nothing to send here. And in fact, what it means is comment. Nice use of the toast there. But I would think about a different way of representing comment, maybe like a little comment bubble, something like that. I'm not a designer, and Roman is not with us today. But yeah, you want to be careful if you're using icons which have a popular meaning to try and don't use them in contexts which are different because it's confusing. I was trying to figure out what am I going to send. Made me really reluctant to hit the button. Let's have a look at it on the tablet.
Yeah, so on the tablet, as you can, so this app just stretches itself horizontally to accept the whole width. So I don't know, maybe a resource constraint. So, but maybe when you get a chance to think about optimizing your app for tablets, you might want to consider using things like fragments so that you can on the left pane shows the list view, and on the right pane or fragments show the content, the detail of the content. In terms of functionality, the tablet version is feature parity with the one that we just saw.
Yeah, it looks almost identical. It's just scaling, isn't it?
Right. My one thing on top of Rato's other comments is that if you press back, it pops up this confirmation.
Oh no!
Exit
dialog.
Whether you want to exit the app. So for users that's been using Android for a while, they know that, okay, pressing back would just go back one step from the stack. So it doesn't really make sense in the context of Android application.
This is one of my pet hates. I have a long blog post where I rant about this for a number of pages.
Like a few minutes, but...
Oh, well,
yeah.
Don't get me started. All right. So in short, don't ever do this. There is no need to have an exit confirmation, particularly for this app. The only time you ever want to confirm that someone wants to do something is if that's potentially a destructive action. So if they're going to exit out of creating an email and you haven't implemented drafting, then you may want to warn and say, well, you're going to lose this if you hit exit now. A better idea is to just do drafting and supporting undo. But for this app, you're not losing anything
no harm,
by exiting,
right? Yeah.
Particularly because you'll find that user can do effectively the same thing by hitting the home button, and they've just exited your app without getting the prompt. So if there was anything you were going to lose, then inserting that prompt doesn't actually stop it from happening.
Right. But the good thing is that it looks like within your preferences menu, you have exposed that as a menu item to give your users an opportunity. But by default, it's turned on. So think about not having to incorporate these kind of features into any Android applications, or most Android applications.
Yeah, I'd strongly suggest you turn it off. And then you can even use analytics to find out how many people are turning it off or turning it back on. But generally speaking, I don't want to have to hunt you down, so please don't do it.
Don't do it.
I do want to have a quick look at the phone version here. There is something I wanted to point out. We talked about having the up icon for sub areas, and they've actually implemented that quite well here. So we're looking at one of the articles, and hopefully you can see. But in fact, I'm going to rotate it just to make sure. But you can see this chevron here next to Pix, and if I hit that, it takes me back up to the main list. And that's exactly the right way to use that up functionality.
Cool.
Okay. All right. That's all the comments I have for this. Looks nice. Does what it says on the tin.
Right.
I'd be interested to have a chat with you about how you're doing some of your network updates to make sure that you're doing it in the most efficient way. So maybe if the creator wants to get in touch, it'd be interesting to do that analysis. But nice UI, does what it says. I like it. Oh, and do the tablet version. Yeah, that was the other key, is to definitely optimize for tablet. The approach that they took with the Woot app we looked at earlier is kind of the right thing. Keep that list. You click an item and it gives you the details. And particularly because you have these nice details with these big pictures, I think there's a lot of value there. Excellent.
Awesome.
We have 4 minutes.
One more app?
Let's have a quick look at colorblind vision.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a look at it on the phone here. Let's make it straight. Okay, so colorblind vision it's an interesting little app. It's designed to help you tell if you are colorblind, which is useful.
Or learn about different types of colorblindness.
Indeed,
it's very educational.
It is.
Yeah.
So it's an educational app. It's quite useful. We've only got a few minutes, so I just want to focus on a few big UI issues, which I think we'll stick to those now. And if the developer can address some of those, then we can go into a little bit more detail on some of the rest of the app. But check out this font. This custom font that's been used throughout the app. Oops, no.
That's the camera.
The camera. Let's have a look at Learn. Yeah, so learn is my favorite. Let me just spin this back to portrait mode. So,
how big is your finger?
yeah, it's a cool app, a cool font. I'm not going to deny it. It does kind of look cool, but it isn't. It just doesn't seem to fit well within the framework. Like you can see, it's cramming the items together. It's kind of harder to read. It just makes everything look kind of off, like it was ported strangely from something else. So I would say definitely, go back and think about, what's the reason for introducing this whole new font theme to your app. It makes it feel like it doesn't belong. Having the fake action bar along the top isn't my favorite thing either. So it's kind of like an action bar, but isn't. We have gotten rid of the menu button, so that's nice. But it's not. It's kind of not clear here, and particularly. I think one of the big things that I thought for an app which is all about color and being able to tell it colorblind and educating people on that, the actual color scheme isn't always the most intuitive. So for things like the title bar here, we've got dark purple and light purple, which isn't kind of ideal for being able to see what's going on. If we go into Learn, we've got sort of this dark blue background with a gray sort of text, and then we switch to a white background with black text, and it all
huge contrast.
Yeah, it's like no contrast, huge contrast. So it makes it kind of tricky to follow. It makes the whole thing feel a little bit less tidy. What else we got? Yeah, I wasn't quite sure what Improve did. I clicked on Improve, and it's let's see.
So it turns into a camera mode with.
Oops. Oh. Oops. Maybe
you don't want to show the world your pin.
Maybe don't do the pin in front of the camera. All right. So it's kind of cool. It does this split screen version of what we're looking at, but it's not really clear what that does. We can click through different colors, but I'm not sure what it's doing. So it might be useful to have a kind of instruction as to what is this doing. While we do have the split screen up, I do want to show you. So this is simulating color blindness. So this is the normal vision, and then you can change it. You can't really see here how well it works, but you can you almost see it? No, it doesn't really come out well enough. But it's split screening between sort of a colorblind version and a non-colorblind version, so you can see whether you are or are not colorblind, which is kind of cool. I like that it lays out itself properly in landscape mode, but even sort of having these custom icons on the home screen isn't a bad thing, except that they don't follow sort of accessibility guidelines or anything like that, and so there's no way of knowing if you're clicking on them. They're not sort of traditionally focusable, and they don't, they're not using stateless drawables to tell you whether or not you're actually currently clicking on them. Did you have any specific feedback for them as well?
Just real quick, 1 minute comment is that on the tablet, yes, on the tablet version, the same app's got pretty much the same set of functionalities. So specifically on this ASUS Transformer Prime device, if you launch the camera mode, it crashes with an MPE. So I just wanted to alert the developer. So I managed to test it on the Motorola Xoom without this problem. So when you get a chance to get a hold of one of these tablets, feel free to check it out. And also on Google Play, you have the option of filtering out known device that don't support your application, so that it buys you more time while you're trying to fix the problem.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go out and limb and guess what the problem might be, because there is a camera on that device.
Right.
So it's not a lack of camera. I'm guessing that you're trying to, because you're doing some kind of cool stuff with image manipulation. I'm guessing that you're trying to apply a filter or something to the camera, which the camera doesn't support. So there are actually methods that you can call to make sure that whatever you're trying to do to the camera is actually supported by the camera.
Right. That's a good lead.
So yeah, maybe check that out. Make sure that you're checking everything before you apply it.
Yep. Cool.
All right, I think that's
all
us
in all,
done.
It's a great app.
Yeah, it's pretty good, but yeah, maybe give it another pass on the UI, and we might be able to take a look at it again. So we need to clear out of here and make room for Big Pete, Ian, and Dan to come in and have a look at games this afternoon. So we're going to go off there for about 15 minutes, let the guys set up, and then they'll be back to walk you through a few cool Android games. So thank everyone for watching.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of the app developers who have self-nominated. Like I said, please do nominate your own apps for next week. We do this every Friday at 1 o'clock. And the more cool apps that we have to look at, the more fun it is for us and the more fun it is for everyone to watch at home as well. So
all right.
thank you, Fred.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. See you guys next week.
See ya.